evening, Cryptid fans. Bigfoot, Dogman. Tonight's really about Dogman. Hey, Jeffrey.
It's a Dwayyo show tonight.
It is a Dwayyo show tonight. What's a Dwayyo? A Dwayyo is the Maryland term for Dogman. And
I don't know if Vic knew that one.
Vic knows everything, right, Vic?
I'm sure.
Oh, far from it. I did know that, though.
Absolutely. And we got, obviously, Vic Cundiff is with us tonight, and really looking forward to hearing any kind of stories and information that he has ascertained over several years. And Mr. Blalack made it in. He was a little late this evening. We got him all fixed up and ready to go from the west coast of Oregon.
Jerry was frozen there for a minute.
Am I really?
Yeah, you just froze up for like 10 seconds.
Oh, okay. I'll probably just go ahead and turn you guys loose, and I'm going to go shut some programs down. It might be lagging my internet down a little bit here through the computer, so I didn't have time to do that before we got started. Anyway, we appreciate you coming on, Vic, and I know you don't need no introduction, but I will ask you, number one, how many years have you been basically on this subject, and what got you into the subject of Dogman?
Well, I spoke with my first Dogman eyewitness back in 2007, and what got me into the whole phenomenon is I was a co-host on a Sasquatch-specific podcast back in 2007 and 2008 with a gentleman named Shane McMahon. He's passed since, unfortunately, but I used to be a co-host on that show, and naturally, if you've ever followed that podcast back in the day, Campfire Shadows, you know that Jim Bayer Grant and Tim Kumbo Baker were regulars on there. Well, they'd go out and have outings all the time. One time they came back from an outing on the weekend, and I forgot who they went with, but they came back talking about how somebody in their group, if I remember right, saw a dog-faced booger, something like that. And I heard that term, dog-faced booger, and I thought, what in the world is that? I knew what a booger was. That's a southern term for a Sasquatch, obviously, but what in the world is a dog-faced booger is what I was thinking. Well, after the show, I can't remember if I asked Bear or Kumbo about that, but somebody told me, one of the two told me that it was just a dogman, basically. So I just tried to learn as much as I could about dogmen, and it didn't take long to realize that, wow, you can almost go to your corner grocery store to get help with a bad Sasquatch experience you've had. But when it comes to these dogmen, if you have an encounter with one of these, who do you go to for help? So I thought, you know what, there's a real need for someone to be a resource to help these eyewitnesses and everything. And that's why I got into it. So yeah, fast forward all these years, and here we are.
That's awesome. What, I guess real quick, I know you got plenty of stories, but I just got to know I know it's difficult to say. What is the one that really sticks out in your mind as the most, not so much controversial, but the most wow factor when you hear of Dogman encounters?
Well, see, that's the thing. Some of the most memorable are ones that I haven't been given permission to share. Encounters that you're never going to hear on the show. Right. A lot of people think that Dogman Encounters Radio is what and who I am. What you see is what you get. But when it boils down to it, what I am, I help Dogman eyewitnesses come to terms with their encounters. I happen to have a podcast called Dogman Encounters Radio that I use as a tool to help eyewitnesses who want to come forward and broadcast their encounters out there to the masses, because after they've had their encounters, in most cases, they've been basically in a prison without walls. They can't talk with their families about their experiences. Yeah. They can't talk with their friends about their experiences. So it's really like a prison with no walls. Well, all of a sudden, here comes this guy who's got the means to give them a platform to share their experiences to the masses, people who aren't going to make fun of them, people who do believe in the phenomenon, know that dogmen actually are out there. So that's really a huge relief for most of these eyewitnesses. Almost 95% of the eyewitnesses comment on how much of a relief it's been to be able to just put their experiences out there and to see all these people supporting them from all over the world. I mean, there are people in Bangladesh and, I mean, countries you wouldn't ever expect who listen to the show on a regular basis. So they went from having to keep this all in to themselves, but then they come on the show, and next thing you know, people from all over the world have heard about their experiences.
Yeah.
So it's a really useful tool when it comes to helping these people come to terms with their experiences that they unfortunately have with dogmen.
So what's the craziest one you can tell us?
Yeah.
Well, I can't say it's the craziest one. I've heard so many
I mean,
encounters that are just over the top, but
yeah.
one that will definitely move the needle is one of the first ones I heard. This one was shared with me back in 2007 by a gentleman who lives right on the edge of the LBL. I don't think his
Imagine that.
property is considered to be in the LBL. I think he said he lived right across the
How
lake,
surprising.
the lake from the LBL, but he's right on it. Anyway, what he told me what happened was his wife had some night out with the girls or something like that one night. So it was just him alone at home that night with this dog. It was a bigger dog. Well, because they had a bigger dog, they had a big doggy door in the kitchen door, which was on the back wall of the house. So he was in bed late that night, had the house to himself, just him and the dog, when all of a sudden, as he was watching TV in bed upstairs, it was a 2-story home, he said, he hears this noise. It sounds like a noise is coming from downstairs, some kind of strange noise he can't put a finger on. So he just brushes it off. No, it's late at night. I'm just alone here. I'm just letting my imagination get the best of me.
And this is why I don't have a doggy door.
Yeah, well, that can be a good idea, as you're going to hear. I can't remember how long it was after that first time, but he was watching TV again, and all of a sudden he thought he heard that same strange sound again. So now he's starting to really wonder, what in the world is going on here? So he mutes the TV, and he's just laying there on the bed listening for that same sound to happen again. Nothing. Well, after a while, he puts the volume back on, and he's watching TV, and not too much longer after that, he hears that same sound again. So now he mutes the TV, he just freezes and listens, and then he gets up. He thinks, you know what, I'm just going to get up and investigate. So he gets up, walks across the bedroom floor and across the hall to the top of the stairs there. Well, the way his house was set up, he said you could look right down the steps from the upstairs hallway.
That's how my house is.
Across the kitchen, and you can see the back wall. Well, in perfect view that way is the door on the back wall of the kitchen, the door with that doggy door in it. Well, as he stood there at the top of the steps and looked down, to his horror, he saw a dogman that seemed to be trying to squeeze through that doggy door to get into the house. But I think now bear with me, this was in 2007, so it wasn't exactly yesterday, but if I remember right, I think it was just too big to get through the doggy door, one of its shoulders. It could get its head and one of its arms through, but its other shoulder was hitting on the top of the doggy door, I think he said. And that's why it couldn't get in. Now, did it really want to get in? And if it did want to get in, to what means? I mean, if it did, to what end? If it did get into the house, was it trying to get in to do a number on him or just to terrify him? We're never going to know. But as far as creepy encounters go, I think that's a really good one to share. Hate the fact you had to experience that.
Yeah.
I actually remember that story.
Me too.
Yeah.
That's why you got min. That's why I have min pins. Get through that door.
Yeah.
Yeah, Elaine Schatz is actually asking how far back can dogman sightings and encounters be traced to?
Well, the earliest documented encounter was in 1887 in Wexford County, Michigan. You've got all these people who have these crazy ideas about dogmen, all these canards, such as all dogmen were created in a laboratory, in a test tube. Well, if that's the case, then how do you explain the first documented encounter being all the way back in 1887? We didn't have anything approaching the technology to do that. Nowadays, I think we do, but I mean, you just can't explain it away like that because of cases like that one in 1887. It was a little girl at a logging camp that basically, it's reported she was abducted by a dogman. They got her back, but she got abducted by one. So, yeah, I mean, these things have been around for a long time. They might even predate us. It's hard to say.
Yeah. I never dreamed it was that far back. Wow. About that. Yeah, that does make sense though. How can you say it's man made or created, if you got to report that far back? That's
Yeah. Well, Michigan's got a pretty long history of dogman.
that leads me to ask what geographical region or maybe even state, Vic, have you gotten the most feedback from?
Oh, wow. I can't say which state I've gotten the most feedback from, but there definitely are some hot spots. Tennessee, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, New York. It used to be Michigan and Wisconsin, but not so much so now. They have encounters that are reported there, but definitely not as many, not nearly as many as Kentucky, Tennessee, Pennsylvania now, it seems like. But
Pennsylvania, huh?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right
But
up against us.
well, yeah. They happen in
Right.
Maryland too. Plenty of
Yeah.
encounters happen there, but yeah, they happen all over. They really do. I've seen so many comments from people. Well, thank goodness I live in California. I don't have to worry about any dogmen here. Well, yes, you do, because I've gotten plenty of encounters from credible eyewitnesses out that way. In Washington State, Oregon, people for some reason think that
Yeah.
since there's so many Sasquatch out there that, well, don't have to worry about dogmen, but yeah, that couldn't be further
David,
from the truth.
didn't one of your sisters move out of state because of
It was my niece.
your
And my
niece?
sister.
Yeah.
My sister keeps. By the way, I wanted to clarify that she keeps telling me that no, she didn't move there because of that. That wasn't the reason she did move. But it did help. Yeah, hers was near Redding, California.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, his sister saw one in California and moved to Australia, but now she's found out that they're there too.
Oh, yeah, they are. I've had
Yep.
several guests on the show from Australia talking about their encounters.
Yeah, we got a friend from Australia that has had several Bigfoot encounters, and he said, "Hate to break it to you, but they're here too."
Oh, yeah, they're all over. I've spoken with eyewitnesses from every continent except for Antarctica. So they really are all over.
Well, we know Bigfoot's out there, so why couldn't this thing?
Absolutely.
Tazewell, Virginia.
Tazewell.
You know anything about that?
Tazewell, Virginia? Well, I don't really know so much about particular places and states. Virginia definitely has their fair share, but as far as if Tazewell is a hot spot, I really don't know.
That's right. Mary Fabian has taken a few from PA. Mary's the founder of the PA Bigfoot Project.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I know Mary. I've
That's
spoken with her
Monkey
several times. Nice lady.
There's Misty Haynes.
Wow, you guys will let anybody in here, won't you?
So there's a question. Are you thinking that of the Egyptian dog head figures like Anubis, that kind of a connection, or?
Well, I'm not so sure about Anubis, and I'll tell you why. Anubis, every time Anubis has been portrayed in a hieroglyph, Anubis has always had hominid style legs. Well, the bulk of dogman encounters that come in, the dogmen that were encountered have digitigrade style leg structures. So I'm not really sure what to think about Anubis. But then again, I mean, there was a lot of talk about the cynocephali. Maybe the cynocephali really did exist. And because of that, maybe there's a tie to the whole Anubis thing. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not really sure what to make of that. And if I don't know what to make of something, I'd rather tell you than try to put stuff out there and pretend like I know what I'm talking about when I actually don't. And by the way, hey, Misty, hope you're having a great night.
Yeah, she wanted to know if you had a recording of a dogman, how you could play, because she's been hearing something that doesn't sound like a Bigfoot, and it doesn't sound like coyotes either.
Well, I can't guarantee it's a bona fide Dogman vocalization, but if you go
Yeah.
to dogmanencounters.com and visit the About Dogman page, there is a vocalization on that page that you can listen to that I do believe is an accurate representation of what a dogman sounds like. Now, who's to say? There's so much we don't know about these things. Anybody that tells you that they definitely know what, if they can listen to a call, they can definitely say without any doubt, yes, it's definitely a dogman. They're trying to blow smoke. But from what I've heard from credible eyewitnesses, as far as their vocalizations that they've recorded, I do believe that that is an accurate representation of what a dogman can sound like. I mean, after all, think about all the different sounds that a fox can make, all the different sounds that a Sasquatch can make. We don't know what the limits of their abilities are when it comes to vocalizing. So all we can do is guess on that. But long answer short, yeah, I do believe that vocalization is genuine.
Yeah. I heard one that D.A. Roberts had, his co-host Robbie. They've got one that someone caught on a Ring doorbell camera in South Carolina that it's probably one of the craziest vocals I've ever heard. And it sounds more dog-like than anything. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah, they can make some crazy sounds.
I'll have to see if I can, DA sent it to me. If I can find it, I'll have to send it to you. It's something else. It scared everybody's pets that were listening to it on the live feed.
Yeah, well, these guys, everything about them is something else.
The only thing that doesn't seem to get startled are my damn farm dogs for some reason.
Well, see, that's a strange thing. Sometimes dogs seem to be really shaken by these guys. Other times they seemingly couldn't care less. There's no rhyme, no reason to it.
Oh, Dorothy.
That's a new one.
Anubis shaving his legs. We got some jokesters in here too, which is always good to have around because we can't always be serious about everything.
It makes life more interesting, no doubt.
Yes, it does. I'm trying to think of what do I want to ask Vic next. I got too many questions and I can't get my brain to work tonight.
So have you personally, Vic, put your eyeballs on them?
Not in person. No, I haven't in person, but you wouldn't believe all the evidence that's been shared with me. And because of that, I've seen dogmen or a dogman more clearly. Well, I guess I could say dogmen because it's happened more than once, more clearly than almost any eyewitness I've spoken with. What I'm getting at here is back in 2000, was it 2000 and 2015. Later on in 2015, I think it was, there was a gentleman from the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains who sent me a video. It was a private YouTube video that showed a dogman coming into view from the left to the right, moving from left to right on the camera view. The story behind it is either he or a friend of his, again, it's been so long, I've spoken with so many eyewitnesses, I can't really remember all the particulars, but he said that either he or a friend of his found out that there was a dogman or dogmen that were frequenting this particular area in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains. So either he or a friend of his strapped this more expensive game cam to a tree trunk and set it to film whenever it detected motion, snap a photo. Well, I don't know. I think it was the day after, or if not the day after, very soon after they strapped that camera to the tree trunk, it triggered and it captured a dogman in broad daylight. It was a full sunny afternoon. I mean, not a cloud in the sky. You know, the Sierra Nevada mountains are. That's how it normally is. Not a cloud in the sky, bright sunlight. You see this dogman come clearly from left to right into view of this camera, and the camera, like I said, was strapped to a tree trunk, and then there was some bait that either he or his buddy hung about 5 feet from the camera lens. Well, the Dogman, it moved between the bait and that camera, so I got to see it from a range of less than 5 feet. It was so close to the camera, in fact, that I actually was able to make out individual hairs on this Dogman.
Wow.
And I was so blown away by the footage that I had recently had a guest on the show, Richard Eady. Yeah, Richard Eady. He was well known for, I don't know if he still is, but back then he was well known for analyzing Sasquatch footage and evaluating it. So I contacted Richard. I asked the gentleman who sent me that footage first, and I asked, okay, well, there's a guy I know who's really good at analyzing footage like this. Would you mind if I shared this private link with him so I could get his opinion on this footage? And he said, sure, by all means. So I called up Richard, and while I had him on the phone, I sent him the link. He opened it up on his computer. He was sitting at his computer. I was sitting at mine, and we watched it together at the same time. He was picking up things I hadn't noticed. I picked up some things that even he hadn't noticed, but it just blew him away, just like it blew me away. But yeah, it turned around and went for the bait. So as it was coming for the bait, I got to see it from the front right. And then when it turned for the bait, you could see its back. But you could definitely say I know what a Dogman looks like. That's something I'm never going to forget.
I bet.
Yeah, there's a question. Your opinion of people encountering Dogman and Bigfoot around cemeteries?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it seems like they're guardians or something. Something's going on where it seems like encounters are more likely to happen around cemeteries than a lot of other places. Maybe there's some there, maybe it's not a thing, but it definitely seems to be the case because so many eyewitnesses over the years reporting encounters when they were close to cemeteries.
Watts Valley Wolf Ape.
Yeah, Watts Valley Wolf Ape on western side of Sierra Nevadas. He thinks as a Dogman chased guys to Watts Valley Cemetery and seen a lot.
Yeah, just might have done that.
Well,
yeah, in different.
Well, sorry, Vic. I got a lag here sometimes.
Oh no, I apologize. No problem.
What I wanted to say was, Elaine commented that there was one of her friends that we've been trying to get on. She saw one in a trailer park near the Aberdeen Proving Ground, which is the local military training facility. I'm sure you get a lot of reports of that.
Dogman encounters happening around military bases?
Yeah, military places.
Not really. You'd be surprised.
No.
They have come in, but there's no heightened occurrence of encounters happening around military bases. Maybe it's a case where Sasquatch seem to like military bases more. Then again, I mean, we're talking about two totally different cryptids here. I mean, Sasquatch, they do seem to try to stay down under the radar much more so than Dogmen do. Dogmen, they're going to go where they want to go. They're going to do what they want to do. So they just have a lot less of a concern for concealment than what Sasquatch do, in my opinion. I mean, there have been plenty of cases where people have reported driving down the road and they look over and they see one of these things standing right underneath a floodlight. Whereas Sasquatch, I mean, they normally try to hide a lot more so than what these guys do. But these guys have also been reported going into developed areas, even during the daytime. There was a cop. This was reported to me years ago as well. There was a cop who had, you know how cops are, they don't normally get Saturdays and Sundays off. They get days off during the week. Well, he lived on a cul-de-sac, and I guess everybody else was either at school or at work on his little cul-de-sac there. So he had the cul-de-sac to himself. Well, he's sitting there at the dining room table having coffee and reading the paper. Well, it was like in the middle of the afternoon, 2-ish, 3-ish, I guess, when all of a sudden, over the top of the paper, he was facing the front wall of the house. Over the top of the paper, he noticed some movement. So he just glanced up from his paper and he sees this dog man moving, walking right down the middle of the road, I think from left to right, towards the closed end of the cul-de-sac. Well, I think he almost spit out his coffee. He jumped up and ran to the front door, and by the time he got out the front door and stepped out to take a look, the dog man had already walked between the two houses that were at the closed end of the cul-de-sac, and he just saw it in time to see it go and disappear into the cornfield that was behind those properties there at the dead end of the cul-de-sac. This was right in the middle of the afternoon, and I mean, if you have a dog man that's coming from the developed end of that cul-de-sac during the afternoon, it had been into that neighborhood in the middle of the afternoon. So how bold is that?
That's very bold. That's like, wow, bold.
Well, there it is.
Yeah.
Mary's question.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you heard about Dogman reports from a campground in the Hocking Hills area of Ohio? The first name is Richard, being the witness.
No, I haven't heard about that, but I have heard about encounters happening in the Hocking Hills area. That does stand out. Yeah, the Hocking Hills area, from what I understand, is basically a hotspot for these things.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what Kane Michael eventually finds out on his property. He's got a huge place, pretty large place there around the Hocking Hills area. I'm getting to him, David.
Okay, I'm just trying to make sure you didn't miss them.
Yeah,
I can't believe LBL has 270 cemeteries.
That's crazy.
might have something to do with the Dogmen being there with their, being relative to cemeteries that hang around. So,
Yeah, just might. You never know.
yeah. What about are they different? I'm just going to use the term breeds. Different looks, different types of a Dogman.
Yeah, there definitely are variants to these guys. I consider dogmen to fall into two main groups: canine type dogmen and what Tim Kumbo Baker has coined type 3s. Now, some people say type 3s are a kind of Sasquatch. Other people say that type 3s are a type of dogman. Type 3s have hominid style legs. So that just rules out the possibility of them being an actual canid. They're not canids. I can tell you what they're not, but I can't tell you what they are, is what I'm getting at here. But yeah, it's just a matter of tomato. There are people who argue about how these things are just a type of Sasquatch and they're not a dogman, period. Why do you call it dogmen? A lot of people in the South, they consider type 3s to be a dogman. If you ask them what a dogman is, they're going to sketch out a type 3. I never will forget, there was one podcast I listened to where Linda Godfrey and Hawk Spearman, they were going at it, arguing about. Linda Godfrey was saying that dogmen have digitigrade style leg structures. Hawk Spearman was saying that dogmen have hominid style leg structures, because basically in his area, they call type 3s dogmen, and that is a dogman right there. So yeah, it's tomato. Again, there are a lot of people who consider a type 3, well, that's a dogman. Well, the whole problem is they're definitely not a canid. Like I said earlier, I can't tell you what they are. All I can do is tell you what they're not. I can tell you they're not a Sasquatch either. And here's why. If you look at their dentition, every tooth in a type 3's mouth is sharp, just like every tooth in a canine type dogman's head is sharp. Well, if they're a type of Sasquatch, then that can't be the case, because some Sasquatch have sharp canine teeth, but every other tooth in their head is blunt, like ours, like a primate. Well, if that's the case, then by type 3 having every tooth in their head being sharp, that precludes the chance of them being a type of Sasquatch. Another thing is, almost every case I've heard of someone seeing a type 3, they had claws on the tips of their fingers and on their toes. Well, claws, that rules out the possibility right there as well of them being a kind of Sasquatch. So that's another case of what are they? I don't know. All I can do is tell you what they're not.
Yeah, Phyllis had asked, are all dog men bad? Again, that's a question. It's probably difficult to. As a Bigfoot, yeah, yes and no.
Yeah, yes and no is the best way to answer that. I don't know of any cases of dogmen doing altruistic things to actually be helpful, but will dogmen, by the term bad, will they all go out of the way to actually harm you? No. Because of how they look, it's so easy to think, okay, these things must be dangerous and they must be out there to rip us apart as soon as the opportunity presents itself. I got a funny message. I might as well bring this up too, because this is kind of funny and interesting. I get crazy messages all the time from people who come to crazy conclusions about things due to either just not paying attention to what I say. I don't know if it's that or just no listening comprehension. I don't know what the problem is, but I always get so many ridiculous messages that are just totally unfounded. What I'm getting at here is I've let it out of the bag that when I can get a chance to clear my head, I like to go to the big woods here and walk miles and miles. And I've walked hundreds of miles in that woods. Well, when I go on these walks, in almost every case, I'm unarmed and I'll walk without anyone else with me too. So a lot of people are up in arms about that. I hear what people say about me, how crazy it is for me to go walking in this big woods here without a gun, without anyone else with me. Are you crazy? I mean, the dogmen are going to rip you apart. They're so dangerous. Listen to foolish Vic doing these things. Well, recently I had a guy send me a message and say that how full of it I was and how he's going to stop listening to dogman encounters because he's fed up with me. He heard what I said the other night, that I say that dogmen aren't wired to rip people apart as soon as the opportunity presents itself, because I've gone on all these walks in the big woods here without ever being harmed by a dogman. I've never given that as my reasoning behind saying these guys clearly are not wired to rip us apart as soon as the opportunity presents itself. I've made it clear countless times that I do believe there are dangerous dogmen out there that will hurt you, kill you if the opportunity presents itself. I'm never going to say that there aren't dogmen out there that are dangerous any quicker than I'm going to say that there aren't dangerous wild feral dogs out there. There aren't dangerous Sasquatch out there. There aren't dangerous, you name the animal out there. They're dangerous people who will kill you if the opportunity presents itself. So I'm never going to make a crazy statement like that. What I have said is, you're listening to a guy who's literally spoken with thousands upon thousands of dogmen eyewitnesses since 2007 who, I mean, the bulk of them have been caught dead nuts to rights. Caught dead to rights by a dogman or dogmen, but they've been allowed to leave the encounter without so much as a single scratch, without so much as a single hair in their heads being harmed. That right there is what tells me that these guys are not wired to rip us apart as soon as the opportunity presents itself, because if that was the case, then I wouldn't have spoken with thousands upon thousands of people who were allowed to leave an encounter without being harmed at all. Now, other people will jump in and say, well, they'll jump in and say, well, you haven't had a chance to speak to the people who've been killed by these things. And that's true. I can't speak with the people who've been killed, but there's definitely a pattern here. When you speak with thousands upon thousands of people who've been allowed to leave the encounter they've been in without being harmed, when the dogman's had them dead to rights, in a lot of cases where the dogman could have done anything it wanted to do to these people and no one would have ever known, but they were still allowed to leave the encounter without a scratch. That does tell me, okay, these guys are not wired as a whole to be dangerous to us and rip us apart as soon as the opportunity presents itself. Because if they were wired that way, then there's no way I would have spoken with so many people who
Yeah.
were allowed to leave an encounter like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the people that you can't talk to are the ones that probably got eaten.
Oh, sure. And like I said, there are dangerous ones out there. I'm never going to dispute that. But yeah, to say that as a
Yeah.
whole, they're wired to be dangerous and rip us apart as soon as the opportunity presents itself. If that was the case, I wouldn't have spoken with thousands upon thousands of them who were allowed to walk away without a scratch.
Now,
Yep.
Vic, do you
That's
think
true.
that one on the LBL was the scariest one?
No.
No.
I've spoken with people who've had encounters that were a lot more frightening than that. I can't go into the specifics, but imagine coming home from work. To give you an example, imagine coming home from work and you throw the keys on the countertop in the kitchen and you maybe grab something out of the refrigerator and
No.
you go and sit in your recliner and it's been a long, rough day and you go and recline back and you've got the TV off and all of a sudden it feels like you're being looked at and you look back over. You're laying back in the recliner. I think you understand. You look back over behind you because you're laying back and there's a dogman in the house with you. So, yeah, I mean, there are cases that I can't share where
Yeah,
they're
wow.
much more frightening than that.
Makes me feel better that there's a certain large caliber something on top of that refrigerator that I'm staring at right now.
A longbow.
Jeff.
A longbow.
That's the thing. Don't trust that to protect you.
I don't.
I mean, I've spoken with a lot of people who've had really formidable weaponry that didn't have the desired effect when they've tried to shoot one of these things. So I hear people talk about, well, I'm going to go into the woods. I know there's a dogman that's supposed to be in this woods, but I'm going to have a 44 in my hip, so I'm bulletproof. But I mean,
I know
these
that's
things have
not the
been-
case because I've been hunting when I've known I've had stuff watching me, and nothing I've carried up till the one time I was out made me feel any better. But if it's in the house, it's going to get loud for a few minutes.
Oh, sure. And that's the problem. People think, okay, well, I'll just take a gun that's so formidable, it will work against them. Well,
Yeah.
it's not going to work
You need to
against
be
them
more
if
than
you
one.
can't
You need
see
to be a bunch
the
of
dogman
them.
coming.
Yeah.
So these things are so at home in the woods. If they don't want you to see the attack coming,
Exactly.
you'll never see it coming.
Now,
That's right. That's right.
now, you can be as prepared as you want to be, but it still probably won't be enough.
Yep. And you always
I
save the
always
last
figured-
one for you always
Yeah,
save the last one for
yourself.
Yep. Yeah.
That's right. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
It is.
Now I've had one encounter. I've never had visuals on anything, Vic, but I've had one encounter while I was turkey hunting in West Virginia, in a area that Vic's probably heard of. There's a section of the Monongahela National Forest right on the border of Randolph and Tucker, and I know there's been disappearances there. And I've heard of dogman encounters from that area, but I had something stalking me. And I've had Bigfoot encounters, I've had the mimics, I've had all the stuff that they do. But whatever this thing was, I couldn't hear anything. But just the presence of whatever it was, I knew there was something waiting to ambush me in this choke point, and I know it wasn't a Bigfoot.
Well, see, that's the thing. These guys are masters at thinking they're going to attack you,
Yeah.
when in fact they don't have any plans on doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll make you think that at any second they're going to just rip you apart. They're going to eat you, have you for dinner, when in fact you're allowed to leave without a scratch. I'm not going to say it's always that way, but there have been tons of people I've spoken with over the years that have reported that.
Don says the he's referring to the type 3. Would that, he was thinking, would that be a Gugway, the baboon snouted Bigfoot with the Beast of Seven Shoots in Canada? He was talking. I don't know if you're familiar or have
Oh
heard it.
yeah.
Maybe a Gugway.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people have different names for these things, for type 3s, that is. Some people call them googways or gugways. Some people call them face eaters. Some people call them just type 3s. There are a lot of names for these guys, for type 3s, that is. Just like there are a lot of names for canine type dogmen. So, yeah, I mean, there seems like there's no limit to the number of names for these guys.
Mary was asking, Mary, if you get many reports from eastern Canada, like the Ontario, Quebec provinces.
Not too many reports from that region, but it's the eastern part of Canada, but there's still a lot of parts in that area where people just don't go into. And to have an encounter, you have to have a person present to
Right.
report it. So I think that's why. But yes, Mary, I have had people from that area contact me to let me know about encounters they've had with dogmen, definitely.
Wow.
A little twisted. Any werewolf encounters? And what's the difference? He's asking.
Oh boy. How should I word this? There's another podcast who has a guy who claims to be a government operative who claims to know.
I already know who it is.
From what I understand, I haven't listened to the podcast, but believe me, I've had my ears filled with this and that from that podcast. Vic, what do you think about this? He said this, he said that. Apparently, there's a guy who claims to either be or to have been a government operative who can tell you everything in the world there is to know about dogmen. And I guess he's the one who started this whole thing about how werewolves don't have tails, but dogmen do, and all of this. I mean, I don't believe that that werewolves exist. I think if you see something that looks like that, it's a dogman. Now, could I be wrong? I sure could be. I mean, werewolves might exist. In this crazy world, what isn't possible? But I mean, I just, without seeing a werewolf and knowing it's got a label on its neck that says werewolf, I mean, I just believe that anything you see like that looks that the way it does 24/7, 365, and it's just a dogman. So yeah, I don't think there's a werewolf over here and there's a dogman over there.
Wow.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, and that I had a hard time wrapping my head around that too.
Well, we've got royalty in here. Mark Green.
Yeah, Mr. Green, yeah.
And Roger Williams.
Yep, I was on the phone with Mark
Who?
yesterday.
Roger who?
Roger who?
Never heard of him.
Exactly. Who?
I actually talked to Greg House this morning. He was
House.
fixing something in his kitchen.
Did you see Brian's question up above, Jerry?
Brian Barbers, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'm it's busy. I'm trying not to miss any questions or comments here. Chat is really flying.
Hey, Roger, we beat you in the race this time. You gotta wait till tomorrow to have Vic on.
Anyway, think of new theory of dogman being a type of cave hyena.
Yeah, I can appreciate them wondering about that, but I don't think that's the case whatsoever. I really don't. Hyenas, it's easy to think that they're a kind of canid, but they're not. They're actually more closely related to cats, to felines, than they are to dogs. And there's so many features on dogmen that point to them clearly being canids and not a type of feline that I just don't think that theory holds any water. I've been approached with the idea that these guys are a type of lemur, but lemurs don't have claws on the tips of their fingers and on the tips of their toes. They also don't have mouths that are filled with sharp teeth.
Yeah.
So there's so many reasons, so many anatomical features that point soundly towards these guys not being a kind of giant lemur and not being some kind of giant hyena. It's just not the case.
Now you've probably seen a lot of the reports where some of them look kind of hyena-ish with like the manes and stuff, and then some of them don't have that. What do you think that is?
I don't know. I'll be the first to tell you if I don't know something, and that's just something I don't know. I'm not really sure what that's all about. There have been plenty of credible eyewitnesses who've come forward reporting that the dogman they saw looked like kind of hyena-ish, but at the same time, it had long, sharp claws on the tips of its fingers and long, sharp claws on the tips of its toes, and also too, the dentition of a hyena is quite a bit different than what you'll find in a canid. If you ever look at a picture of a hyena with its mouth open, what people report seeing when hyena-looking dogmen open their mouths is closer in a lot of ways to what you'd find in a canid than what you would ever find in a hyena. Now, does that mean I know for sure that even the hyena variants look that way, that they're a type of canid? I can't say that with any certainty. I don't know. But from what I think I know about these guys, I do believe even the dogmen that have hyena-like looking features in some ways, I do believe that they're still a kind of canid.
Yeah.
That's interesting, Mark. What he read. Understand a werewolf is assassin from a witch's coven.
Well, anything's possible. There are subatomic particles called quarks, and they actually wink into existence and wink out of existence. If that can be the case in this crazy world, you tell me what can't be possible. So
That's
anything is possible. I definitely believe that.
Yep.
What about colors? Colors of the hair, the fur.
Any color that a timber wolf could be or a coyote could be, you'll find in the dogman world as well. Black, the grayish with the brownish black highlights, tips of their fur, and white. You can find various other colors as well.
About a woo factor, such as cloaking, portals, orbs, etc. Anything been reported with in or around orbs or portals or anything?
Oh, yeah, there's been plenty of that too. Plenty of credible eyewitnesses have reported seeing them stepping out of portals, stepping into portals, cloaking, all sorts of other things too. So it seems like some of these guys do fall on the woo side of the line, whereas most of them don't seem to. But that's just because the eyewitness hasn't seen them do anything that would make them think that they have any woo type qualities to them.
So, Vic, according to like reports and everything, all the information you've gathered, what's your idea on where they even came from?
Well, see, that's $1 million question. You might have dogmen that were created in a laboratory that the government is making now. We definitely have the technology. I do believe that. And if that's the case, then who's to say that the government isn't trying to make them and weaponize them somehow? I don't see how that could ever happen. You tell me something with the intelligence that these guys have. In a lot of ways, I wouldn't be surprised if their intelligence is maybe as high as ours. Maybe in some ways their intelligence supersedes our own. But if you look at how formidable they are physically and how intelligent they are, there's no way to control them and make them go do your bidding. There's no way you can do that. So, yeah, I don't think that they are ever going to be used as government operatives or anything like that. You hear stories about them supposedly serving as tunnel rats in the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
I think that's just complete nonsense. How do you get them to do that? A creature that's as formidable as they are and as intelligent as they are, how do you make them go out and do your bidding? You just can't do that.
I listened to the same episode, Vic. I know which one you're talking about. And I'm thinking, how did they train these things to be tunnel rats in Vietnam?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's crazy information about dogmen out there. There's so much bad info. It's not even funny. I don't know a particular episode where that's been said because, again, I don't listen to that show. But, I mean, I've heard it brought up countless times.
I did a few times. And I really started wondering because even the short time we've been doing this, Jerry will tell you, I've called him sometimes about people talking to me going, yeah, no. I'm not buying into that. I mean, I respect people's opinions and stuff, but sometimes it's just you know where I'm going with that.
You know what? We all have opinions, just like everything else. Like we have everything else, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
sometimes my meter is in the red, and
True.
yeah.
True that.
What about any kind of activity between both Bigfoot and Dogman, both maybe fighting territorial or anything like that? Have you ever heard anything like that?
Well, in most cases, after speaking with so many eyewitnesses who've told me about seeing these guys interact with each other, it seems like when Sasquatch are in a particular area and then a dogman comes into that area, the Sasquatch normally will just beat feet and leave. But you'll find other times where, in a way, they kind of coexist. I've had credible eyewitnesses talk about how back behind their house in the woods, you've got a creek or a stream that the Sasquatch tend to stay on this side of, whereas there's a dogman they've seen quite a few times that stays on the other side of the stream. So it seems like they do mix normally like oil and water, but to complicate matters, because of course this can't ever be simple, you've got credible eyewitnesses too who've reported seeing these guys together. So I don't know what that's about.
Now,
Yeah,
Vic,
I've
I
heard.
don't know. Vic, I don't know if you've ever seen Mark Green's corn patch pictures.
No, I sure haven't.
He's got what looks like both of them in the corn patch together.
Huh, I believe it because, yeah, there have been credible eyewitnesses who've sent me pictures, and you'll see a dogman here, and oh, there's the Sasquatch right there, having a Kodak moment.
This was in behind Mark's house, like in
Back
his
field,
back in his back field. And he was like 20 yards from it when he took the picture.
Wow, yeah, that's close.
And you can like make out different like faces and stuff in the corn.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Have you seen that, David?
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, there's something there.
Yeah.
So Vic, about the like hearing them being not necessarily interacting, but like Bigfoot even beating feet when one's around. Did you hear about the one? I can't really remember how it went, but where the guy was hearing something come off the hill and notices something off to his side, and he looks over and a Bigfoot's kind of motioning for him to get the guy to get down, and ended up a dogman came crashing down the hill and went right past him. Did you hear anything about that one?
I might have heard that one. I've heard so many things like that over the years, though. It's kind of a blur. And by the way, you're welcome, Southern Belle. I saw her comment there. That's awfully nice of her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Do you? I'll just go and share it up here for you. How do you think their eyes glow so fluorescently?
Well, there are two possibilities here. Maybe their eyes do collect light at a ridiculous level that's well above and beyond what you see from even a cat. Maybe that's why their eyes seem to glow even in very, very low light conditions. Or maybe they are somehow self-illuminating because maybe they are from the ether. Maybe they are supernatural beings. I don't really know. All I can do is guess on that. But like any other creature that's adapted to see very well at night, they definitely do have tapetum lucidums, which is the reflective layer on the back of their eyes that reflects light back through their eyes. The light comes in, but those tapetum lucidums reflects that light back out too. So by doing that, it helps that eye utilize the light that much more effectively, supercharging their night vision. That's basically why short story to explain how they're able to see so effectively at night in low light conditions, just like a cat or another animal that can see very well in low light conditions.
Nice. That's interesting.
I
So,
just had really good ones. I can't remember what I was going to ask him. Damn it.
yeah. So monkey winch Mary, she's saying her hypothesis is that her eyes collect and reflects ambient light. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, right off of the tapetum lucidums, that's what they do. They collect and reflect that light back through the cornea.
Yep.
So it can use the light twice.
So in your opinion or in your knowledge, do they give off different color eyeball shines for different moods, or just random difference, or different light that's shining on them? Or, you know what I mean? Is there a difference in colors of their eye shine?
I've heard that postulated before, but I don't think that's what's going on. I could be wrong. Maybe that is what's behind it and what's going on. But if you look at a dog at nighttime, and if you have a light shining into its eyes, or some kind of light is reflecting off of its eyes, if the dog looks this way or that way, you'll notice a shift in color. So that would explain why you see that with them as well. Maybe that's not what's actually going on. Maybe they can change the color of their eye reflection somehow. But if they can do that, then they must be supernatural.
Very interesting.
Now, Vic, I was going to say, Sean that's in here, he's had 3 different encounters with a dogman in Maryland.
Yeah, I believe it. I'm hard to surprise when it comes to dogman things. People send me links to dogman shows. Oh, you've got to watch this. You're not going to believe this. Well, I mean, this is what I do. I don't moonlight doing this. I'm not a mechanic. I'm not an attorney. I'm not an accountant who happens to moonlight doing this as a side gig. No, this is what I do. I help dogman eyewitnesses come to terms with their encounters. And when you consider that, I mean, there's no novelty to this to me at all. I watch in my spare time. I'll lay in bed and I'll listen to Sasquatch podcasts when I can't sleep, because that hasn't been overdone with me. But I love what I do when I have a new encounter come in from an eyewitness and there's a possibility of helping someone who can't sleep well at night and you can't eat right, help them turn that around, and all of a sudden everything's fine and they're happy again. I just jump at the opportunity to do that. So I love helping the eyewitnesses. I'm definitely far from sick of doing that. But when it comes to looking at these guys, anything to do with dogmen as a novelty, yeah, that's just not how it is.
Yeah, Sean was saying that 2 of his were very close to cemeteries, and the other one he walked through a cemetery to where he ended up seeing it.
I believe it.
So what do you think, Vic? Would you nurse a dogman pup back to health?
No. I hate these things. That's another thing. They think, okay, well, Vic, he's the one who created dogman encounters. He must love these things. I hate dogmen. I hate them.
I don't like them either.
Let me tell you something. You talk with a mother who's beside herself. She doesn't know how to console her little boy who sat there and watched this POS dogman rip his dog apart. The little boy sat there looking out the back window, watching this POS rip his dog apart for no reason whatsoever. So now this little boy who doesn't even understand life, he doesn't understand hardly anything about life. He's been subjected to that at such an impressionable young age. How can you possibly like these damn things?
I
So
agree.
dogmen, and what they do to people, they go miles out of their way to terrify people, to mortify people to within an inch of their lives for no reason whatsoever. I hate these damn things. So yeah, there's no novelty when it comes to dogmen for me. Would I nurse a dogman pup if I found it? Hell no, not at all. I hate
I'll
it.
tell you one thing.
I'll second that.
If one of them decides to eat one of these dogs in here, the one dog, the other one, I'm burning the forest down.
Don't blame you.
So Vic, if kind of a 2-part question here, if you were to go and look, if a person were wanting to go and look for a dogman themselves, you know, where would be like the highest odds in your opinion, or like the highest sightings, you know, at state or area? And second part would be, would you recommend that, or is there a safe way to do that?
No, there isn't. No, there is no safe way to put yourself within the presence of dogmen. You might have a dogman who normally wouldn't hurt a person, but you don't know what it's going through. It might have gotten up on the wrong side of the log that morning. It's hard to say what's going on with this particular dogman or that one that you might encounter. There's so many people heading out into the woods, Dave, who have no business looking for these things that do. I mean, I wish I could tell you. I've never had a dogman eyewitness contact me begging for help because, Vic, you've got to help me. This dogman I've been researching, I've been heading into his area for, I can't remember how long. He followed me home. He knows where I live now, Vic. You've got to help me. Well, you're researching him. He's researching you now. You were going into his home? Well, he's returning the favor. There's so many people who are getting in way over their heads. People with no knowledge of the woods who have no business heading into the woods by themselves the way they do. They don't understand the dangers that you might find out there that aren't even dogman related in the first place. I mean, they might come across an old homestead. The house has been demolished and they're just walking around thinking how neat it is. They don't realize that there might be a well there that they can't see because it's covered with leaves or whatever. Just so many people out there beating the bushes looking for these things, again, that have no business doing that. And as far as where you might find a dogman goes, these guys are so widespread, Dave, that if you have a woods with a healthy deer population, and even better yet, if you have a pretty good population of coyotes and you've got a pretty good source or pretty good sources, plural, of moving water, well, there's a strong possibility that at whatever given time of the year, you might have a dogman in that area. Uh-oh, I see a min pin.
Oh, yeah. There's
my
two of them. It's a
What
miniature
about- like I said,
dogman. Watch out, David.
That's why they ain't getting through these dog doors.
Only the head.
Or an arm or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gary, I'm sure they love wild hogs also. No
I
doubt.
bet they do.
Yeah.
Yes, indeedy. What about a language? Have you heard any kind of talk of witnesses that maybe have seen one of these, as in also a Bigfoot? Is there any kind of a language associated with it? Have they heard, you know, like some people have heard a language of whatever sort from Bigfoot sightings? How about dogmen?
In their heads, yes. There have been a lot of credible eyewitnesses who've reported that where they experience what you would call mind speak. But as far as the spoken word, never. Yeah. I've never spoken with an eyewitness who has ever talked about hearing a dogman actually verbally speaking with them.
Okay. So that could further separate the two, is what I'm getting at. I'm just curious if there was some kind of a language associated, you know, like some have spoken about Bigfoot being able to hear a language.
As far as like seeing them in a group, do you get that a lot?
No, not at all.
I thought it was normally what I've heard was solitary.
I'll tell you why. Sasquatch clearly are omnivores, so they can make a living in a lot of places where dogmen can't, because dogmen are clearly not omnivores. They're obligate carnivores.
Yeah.
If you're an obligate carnivore, it's all too easy when you're as big as a dogman is. I mean, they can get to be 12 feet tall at maturity. If you're talking about a creature that big that's an obligate carnivore, just imagine the daily caloric requirements of that creature. Well, with that in mind, if you have more than one in any particular area, that just means you're going to blow through the resources that much quicker. So it's in their best interest not to hang out in numbers. Now, that doesn't mean that they never do come together, because, credible eyewitnesses have reported seeing them together in numbers before. But what I'm getting at is I just don't think they make a habit out of doing that, because it just would not make sense. Even one dogman, it's just natural that they're going to move just like any large predator. they're going to move throughout a huge home range to avoid depleting the resources in any one given area inside that big home range.
Mark Green, the superstar, or however you referred to him a few minutes ago, if you knew anything about the FBI agent that got killed in Tennessee a few years ago by a dog man.
No, I don't know about that. I don't think I ever heard about that happening.
You know anything about that, David? Have you heard? Mark, you want to elaborate?
I have
bit?
not heard anything about that.
I remember hearing something about it, but I can't go into any great detail. I have a horrible memory. Maybe Mark will chime back on that.
I missed one.
I have one here. Indigenous people. Do you think are there any stories from the Indigenous people?
Oh, plenty of people. Plenty of Indigenous people have contacted me to let me know about their experiences. There have been several who've been on the show. As far as any particular encounters that they have shared with me, none really come to mind that I could share with you, but they definitely have contacted me.
Yeah, Sean said you really helped him a lot without even talking to him, watching your channel.
Well, that's great. That's what it's all about. Most people have encounters with these things. They've got this feeling of being alone. They just feel like they're the only person in a lot of cases to have experiences like this with dogmen. But when they can sit there and listen to the show and listen to this person over here, that person over there, talk about their experiences, okay, well, maybe it's not just me. There are other people who've had to suffer through this. So I love having a platform where people like Sean can listen to these encounters.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of. I got more Sasquatch experience than anything, but I will tell you, Dogman creeps me out, especially that one place I was at.
Yeah, I can understand why.
I still camped there all week, but that was we never went back to that place again.
Yeah, that area is a little crazy.
Green Ridge in West Virginia. Yeah, the funny thing about that was where I felt like something was waiting for me to come into that choke point, Vic. And the same weekend, might have been the same day or the following day. I don't know if this sounds more like a Bigfoot thing, but a friend of ours that was with us, there were three of us all out there turkey hunting. Now we're armed up. We've got shotguns and we're carrying pistols, and we're set up 2.5 miles off trail back in the woods, hammock camping by a creek. And we had gone out fishing that evening, and two of us went back, and my friend Josh, who was with us here when I had my first encounter with Bigfoot, vocal 40 yards probably in the dark, screaming at me. That'll get your attention. That was the last time I worked on a tree stand after dark. But anyway, he comes back and he's carrying his fishing rod in one hand and his pistol in the other. And I'm thinking, what has got him spooked? Because he doesn't just pull his out for anything. And he's looking behind and then looking at me, looking behind him, looking at me again. He's like, how long have you guys been here? I'm like, a while. Why? He's like, something was throwing rocks in the creek. And he looks at me and goes, bears don't have hands.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, you know where I'm going with that.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Have you ever heard of them throwing rocks? Or I feel like that's more of a Bigfoot thing.
It seems like it's normally more of a Bigfoot thing, but I have spoken with credible eyewitnesses who've reported things being thrown at them that it seems like it was a dogman that did that, but I've never spoken with anyone who actually saw a dogman pick a rock up and wing it.
we've got plenty of stories of people seeing Bigfoot throwing rocks.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's very common.
Could have been both of them there that, maybe Bigfoot was throwing rocks in the creek saying, hey, you might want to go back to camp.
Yeah, that might be what was going on.
Yeah.
Why do you think they show to some but not to all out in the woods? That's
a good question. I really don't know why they do that, but that's really anyone's guess. It might be because they look at this person over here and think, okay, I stand a much better chance of being able to frighten the pants off them than this person over here. That might be what's behind it. That's just a guess, though. I really don't know.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that maybe that day, maybe that was a Bigfoot telling him to go back to the camp. That's really what I'm starting to wonder at this point.
Yeah, might have been. You never know.
So really, I think it's really still a probably less than a 50-50 chance of having a horrible encounter with one of these things. I mean, I don't know what I would do to be in the woods and come upon something like that. Would be either one of the two, but for some reason, just the thought of a dog being that tall and big and strong is pretty damn scary to me. I don't know what I would do. Run is probably the last thing. Obviously, you don't do that to a predator.
No, I don't want to run with predator.
I just don't know if you've heard any really gory, unfortunate incidences with the beings.
Yeah, I have spoken with 7, 8, maybe 9 eyewitnesses, credible eyewitnesses over the years who have told me about being attacked by these things. But when I normally say that, people reel and say, oh my gosh, really? 7, 8, maybe 9 dogman attacks? And I can understand why it is going to make you reel when you hear that, but it shouldn't in a way, because when you look at the big picture here, that's out of thousands upon thousands.
Right.
I'm going to break it down for you. I definitely do believe that if you encounter a dog man, the odds of you being harmed are actually lower than if you interact with any of the typical animals that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, like horses, dogs, cats, pigs, cattle, you name it. What I'm getting at is if out of 3,000-4,000 dogman eyewitnesses, only 7, 8, maybe 9 that I've spoken with have ever reported to me about being intentionally harmed by one of these things. Well, if you took 3,000-4,000 people that you spoke with who have had interactions with horses and asked them, okay, how many of you people here have ever been intentionally harmed by a horse you interacted with, stepped on, bitten, kicked, stomped, you name it, run over? You know, the number of yeses would be in the hundreds. Well, if you swap out horses for cattle, for pigs, for dogs, for house cats, whatever the animal you pick, camels, the number of yeses, if you asked 3,000-4,000 people that question, the number of yeses would still be in the hundreds.
Yes,
so if that number is only 7, 8, maybe 9 with dogmen, then that tells you right there that as hard to believe as it is, the odds of you being harmed by a dogman that you encounter are actually lower than if you encounter a horse or any of those common animals.
Yeah, and I raise cows, and I get my butt whooped occasionally by them. So yeah, I know what you mean by that.
Yeah, I agree. Videos or photographs, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
DNA, yeah. How do you get that DNA? You know, I mean, there's ways to get it, I'm sure. Safely.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stand there and try to shoot or kill any of them. So.
No.
Now, Vic, do you have any stories of Bigfoot dogman fighting?
Yeah, I've heard about that happening before from credible eyewitnesses. Apparently, they do go at it from time to time. What causes them to decide to do that, I don't know. That's anyone's guess. But yeah, there have been people who've reported that to me before in the past.
I would lean toward territorial. That's just me.
Yeah, just might
Unless
be.
maybe they were trying to give the
Yep.
human a chance to get out of there while they were. Yeah.
Yet Gary Spikes says they've protected him, so that could be a
Yeah.
part of truth. It could very well
Yeah.
be. There's
Yeah.
for every story told, how many do you think goes untold for everyone that's told?
Oh gosh, that's anyone's guess. Most people who have a dogman encounter, they don't talk
Good
about it. They don't
question.
come forward for obvious reasons. So, yeah, who I talk with, they're just the tip of the iceberg. You've got people who think that I claim to have spoken with almost all the dogman eyewitnesses out there, but yeah, that couldn't be further from the truth. I think what I've interacted with, it, like I said, it's just the tip of the iceberg.
And Rick, you're 100% correct. The government
Yeah.
will never release the truth. We know that.
They got to have bodies of these things.
Oh, yeah, I don't
House.
doubt that at all. I think they've got these things in cages someplace. I really do.
I
You don't
agree.
think they're in there training them, throwing them treats and stuff, do you?
No, because if they did that, to what end? I mean, like I said, I just do not think that you could train these things. I don't see how that could ever happen.
Yeah, it's like Bigfoot. I certainly could see him being anywhere in the United States. Where they come from, what they come from, Lord knows. Lord knows.
Yep.
It's very hard to say.
It is.
Yeah, it definitely is.
And that's a good question. I got to be quicker. Which reports are more prevalent, Type 3 or Type 4 that you receive?
Well, see, that's the thing. There is no such thing as a Type 4 dogman. There's a Type 4 Sasquatch, which is supposed to be the little people. But as far as between Type 3 dogmen and canine type dogmen, 95 to 99% of the reports that come in are canine type dogman reports. With the occasional, every once in a while, I'll have an encounter that involved a Type 3 come in.
Yeah, I imagine most people aren't looking at the legs, so probably some of them might get overlooked.
Yep.
Do you think
I
they
like
have
that
a
question about
burrows,
that. That's a
like coyotes or?
It's possible they just might do that, but I don't know. All I can do is guess on that. There have been credible eyewitnesses, plenty of credible eyewitnesses who've reported seeing dens that seem to be used by dogmen, so maybe that's why they had dug a den or took over a den.
Sounds like I need to take a can of gasoline to that hole.
Well, good luck getting out of there if you try to do that.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's different than getting a groundhog out of your pasture.
Yeah.
You had to go there, didn't you? That's a never-ending fight.
Yeah, poor Jerry.
Never-ending fight.
I've eradicated most of my groundhogs.
Well, shooting at guns is one thing with me right now. So,
But of course, the groundhogs don't try to eat me. So, well, I had that one that tried to bite me on the foot one day.
so is there really any active groups out there that are really trying to lead research into the subject, Vic? I mean, there's a ton of Bigfoot groups out there. Do you know of any successful research groups that are out there researching these?
Well, I don't know how successful they are, but yeah, there are groups out there that do look for these things. But unfortunately, just like with the Sasquatch side, there's just way too much infighting and ugliness.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. and it makes it very hard on a subject that's so very questionable
Yeah.
as it is, without any internal goings on, so to speak. It's just,
Yeah, because there have been people who have asked us recently about, groups like that, and because they're trying to stay away from other ones. Problem is, there isn't really a whole lot as far as that goes.
Yeah, not really. Doesn't seem to be.
Yeah, right there what Cryptid Podcast said. Lots of trolls in the community.
Yeah.
shame.
That's
It's a
an
shame.
understatement.
Yeah, right, Gary. And you get the groups that keep posting fake pictures because of that new technology called AI. You can,
Which is what Jerry's got behind him.
yeah, I do.
This is which is what we make all of our thumbnails with. Well,
No,
Jerry
we
makes all the
just
thumbnails.
started making them with them, but that's innocent compared to what some people are doing with AI. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
again, making a subject that's hard enough to bring association to people and awareness without the silliness going on behind it. So it's a little disappointing. But
What can you do?
exactly.
Mhm.
Well, we're an hour and 22 minutes in. I don't want to hold him up. I know he's got to really get geared up for tomorrow night because that fella likes to talk a whole bunch.
I'm looking forward to it too.
Yeah, Roger will keep you. He'll twist your ears. Don't worry. he'll definitely keep you talking. And but all your questions, man, you've answered a lot of questions for people and for myself, and for I think they're very real. I really do. There's just too many reports uh, for it not to be true. I mean, why would X amount of hundreds or maybe even thousands of people make up stories? It If it's for a popularity thing, then they're demented in the head. But I just feel that it's both subjects are very real, very much out there, state to state. Uh, yeah, I'm sure you feel the same way. I mean, you've taken enough reports uh, to make you a believer. I'm sure.
Well, seeing them too. I mean, the evidence that's been shared
Yeah.
with me, that's everything right there. They're definitely out there.
Yeah, and it's like going back to Carrie Arnold saying, it's just a matter of raising awareness. So people need to put their head on a swivel anywhere, anytime, and it don't have to be deep in the wilderness anymore. We're learning definitely they can be right outside of town, right inside town, day,
Oh,
night.
look, Jerry.
You know.
The Squatching Cowboy has entered the chat.
Watching Cowboy. Yeah, he was just fresh on the Discover Sasquatch channel while we were Mr. Cundiff here tonight. So welcome aboard. But I don't want to hold. I don't. I'm out. You have any more questions, guys? Chat. You have any more questions for Vic?
I got a quick one for him.
Sure.
So if somebody has a dogman encounter or something they suspect is a dogman encounter, is there somewhere that they can go to or get a hold of that they can share their sighting or experience with?
Yeah, there sure is. If anyone's had a Dogman encounter that they need help with, or if they just want to come on the show, Dogman Encounters Radio, all they would need to do is to go to dogmenencounters.com, submit a report, and if they do that, then I'll contact them and schedule a phone consultation, and take it from there.
Okay, there you go, Sean.
There you go.
Sean's
Yep.
like I say, he's right here, an hour from us, over in the next county, and he's had 3 of them. So we had him on several shows back. Pretty
Yeah, he's one of the
stuff.
few local guests that we've had. Elaine's another
welcome
one.
aboard.
And she saw Bigfoot under a street lamp of all places, Vic.
Oh, yeah, I told you. People see them under floodlights.
It was a Bigfoot instead of a
Yeah.
It was instead of a Dogman.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep, a lot of thank yous, Vic. A lot of people appreciate your input tonight.
Now, Vic, are you still doing your Bigfoot stuff too?
Oh yeah, I produce 2 Sasquatch podcasts. I've got
Oh,
Bigfoot
Lord.
Eyewitness Radio and my Bigfoot sighting, so that keeps you busy.
Okay.
So you have Bigfoot Eyewitness and Bigfoot. What did you say it was?
Yeah, I've got Bigfoot Eyewitness Radio and my Bigfoot sighting.
Okay.
Yeah, to find out, to be able to listen to episodes of Bigfoot Eyewitness Radio, if you just go to your favorite podcast platform, however you listen to podcasts, type in Bigfoot Eyewitness Radio. You could just type in Bigfoot Eyewitness and it'll pop up. But yeah, that's how you can listen to Bigfoot Eyewitness Radio.
I knew you had at least one.
Oh yeah, I've been airing weekly episodes of Bigfoot Eyewitness since 2016, I think it was. And that's weekly episodes. And then my Bigfoot sighting, I've had that on for 3 years now. That's both on YouTube and also it's available using your favorite podcast app. But again, that's called My Bigfoot Sighting.
And Bigfoot Eyewitness.
Very good.
See, this is professional podcasting here.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Not the guys that after they're done, beating themselves to death at work all day. Come on.
Oh, come on now.
I was chasing cows all around all day, and then I changed the bumper out of my pickup and I put my kid to bed before all that.
Busy Jeffrey.
And he's not here all the time, but the days he is.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah, but we really appreciate it, Vic, and
absolutely.
Once we get off, hang backstage for a minute because I want to ask you something.
Sure, I'll be here.
Backstage, we didn't want to ask during the show. Okay.
Well, you know what question I want to ask you, Jerry.
I'm sure. Yeah, I have a pretty good idea.
It's been a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We appreciate you coming on, and everybody else will be back next week, 8 p.m. Eastern. Don't know who just.
I don't know what I'm doing yet.
David is working on somebody, so.
David is too, but I want to say, Daniel from Cryptid Podcast. I got to talk to him soon and have him on. Okay. You've been on with him, haven't you, Vic?
Oh yeah, I sure have, and he came on my show as well.
Yeah, I tell you, we have met we've only been doing this since last year, and it's been amazing.
The Cryptid Podcast, Jerry, David, Milkman. Okay, you have an open invite to my show.
I've met so many great people doing this, and I just can't believe
he's like the Energizer Bunny. He just keeps going and going and going.
Vic hasn't watched this, but a lot of nights, Vic, sometimes I'm prone to falling asleep on air. So,
oh no,
oh yeah, everybody gets a kick out of that.
I'm a dairy farmer. I work weird hours. It's.
I understand.
David, you want to take care of that for Miss Mary down below? Let everybody know about her pie. Oh, whoops, you eating? I'm sorry, Jeff. Anyway, Mary, tomorrow night at 7:30.
Yeah. I was.
I didn't know David knew how to do that because I don't.
What's that?
Well, you're talking about just announcing that.
The Monkey Winch, just announce the Monkey Winch podcast tomorrow night.
I don't know how to put the things up like Gary and everybody does down there for people's.
I could do it on my phone, but I can't do it on my computer. So.
Oh, okay. But anyway, there's too many shows on at the same time tonight. Sorry, Diane.
Yeah. The other night I was like bouncing back and forth between 3 chats. I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Paul, I'm not sure. I don't remember which show that Sean was on. Sean, real quick, if you can answer that question, if you remember. I can't remember what show number it was.
I can't either.
But, it's been a little ways back now. We can't help, Tuesday nights is what works for us because I have a show on Wednesday night in a different genre, and sometimes Thursday nights, and if we ever do a beers and boogers, that's another night during the weekend. So,
Vic, if you're into tractor pulling, that's what Jerry does for for his real job.
California has them, but they're not as popular as they are out here in the East, Midwest and East.
Yeah, that's what he was telling me. I love tractor pulls.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks for doing what you do. You're a cryptid therapist. That's what Sean said. So,
Yep.
Well, thanks for the good words. I wouldn't have it any other way. I just feel blessed to be in a position to do it.
And you've got like the perfect voice for it too.
Well, thank you. It's okay though.
It's okay. Yes, thank you, Vic. It's been great hearing
absolutely.
your wisdom and knowledge and sharing it with us all. Appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. It's been a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you
On a subject that's not, I mean, gaining popularity very much so here in the recent years, but it's nice to know somebody has taken enough reports or listened to stories and can share some of that stuff. So again,
Yeah.
listen and learn. That's what it's all about for us. So,
A lot of this stuff runs together, so
Yeah. Kind of like this long Southern goodbye from Maryland.
Just keeps going.
It keeps going and going and going.
we're just getting you ready for Roger.
Exactly.
Uh-oh. I'm looking
Okay.
forward to that too, though.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll have a good time with Roger. He'll talk to you.
Yeah.
He'll talk to you.
Roger's awesome.
All right, guys, gals. Next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Lord willing, we'll be back with a
Something.
new guest and ready to rock and roll for a little while. So that said,
Yep.
David,
Night, footers.
Night.
we'll see everybody next week. Thank you again, Vic.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Vic.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad to
Hang
do
back.
it.
Hang backstage, and we'll be right back.